we have to get to this today because this is a very big story. New reaction to the bombshell that was dropped by the Obama administration on a key component of the health care law. The former CBO director is now saying that the move, which came late yesterday in a form of a blog from the White House, that delays the so-called employer mandate for a year is, quote, according to Doug Holtz-Eakin, who ran the CBO, deviously brilliant because it removes a potential roadblock for Democrats in 2014. Might be very tough for them in many cases to run with health care starting to percolate up and maybe some issues and problems that would come along with it smack in the middle of the election. That's no longer a problem for them. Doug Holtz-Eakin writes this, quote, explaining away the mandate was going to be a big political lift. Having the White House airbrush it from the landscape is a way better. Alan Colmes joins us now, host of the Alan Colmes Radio Show. Tony Saig is a former press aide to GOP vice presidential nominee Jack Kemp. He's also the president of Talk Radio News Service, and both are great Fox News contributors. Good to have you here, guys.
Good to be with you, Martha.
Summer afternoon, just before the 4th of July. Alan released in a blog, you know what, this is pretty complicated stuff, so we're going to give employers another year to process this. What do you say? Well,
this is something employers that businesses have asked for. The Chamber of Commerce is praising it. The business community is praising it. And it's also something, contrary to what Holtz-Eakin is suggesting, that was really done because of the fact that the law is extremely complicated, and it's something that's been requested by businesses. They're actually also reporting, the Wall Street Journal reported, that it was really done because conservative groups have put roadblocks into implementing the law, and because of those roadblocks, it's taken more time for implementation, not because of some kind of political calculation.
Really?
That's what the Wall Street Journal reported.
Martha, I'm falling out of my chair. I'm hearing Alan Colmes defending, coming to the rescue of big business, corporate America, who I've heard him rail against very eloquently, I might add, even though I don't agree.
Thank you very much.
Look, it's obvious that Obama is not standing his ground on this law, particularly the implementation, which even Max Baucus, Democratic senator from Montana, who was the author of this bill in the Senate, called a train wreck. Here's the reality. This is the prescription from the administration. More morphine, please. Easing the pain of trying to sell this health care law till after the midterm election. Yeah. And at this rate, it might even go beyond the president's own term in 2016. And this is how they've done it all along, Martha. They've done this with the unions. They gave them exemptions and waivers. They've done this to small businesses in Nancy Pelosi's district. 20% of the waivers have gone there.
We've heard from Kathleen Sebelius that, you know what, it's going to be a lot more complicated than we thought. Let's take a look at a poll that may tell us a little bit about why they decided to do this. How does Obamacare make you feel about your health care in the future? 66%, Alan, say that it makes them worried. That number is up considerably in the course of the last year. And let's face it, Democrats do not want this in their way when they go out to campaign for the midterm elections.
Well, that may or may not be true, but whether that was behind the delay is really a matter of speculation, mostly by those who aren't in favor of Obama or the Affordable Care Act to begin with. Again, it's the Wall Street Journal, the conservative Wall Street Journal, that reported that it was right-wing groups that got in the way of the implementation by consistent challenges.
Well, of course they did. I mean, why is that surprising when you know that they've been against it since day
one? If I could just finish my thought here.
Go ahead.
That is the reason it was delayed, not because of a political calculation. It was because the attempts to get in the way of implementation by the conservatives who didn't want it implemented is what is delaying it.
But Alan, would you concede that it's helpful? Would you concede that it's helpful?
Oh, yeah. I think there could be a political advantage for it, but that may not have been the motivation for having it done in the first place.
You know what? Even if you take what Alan is saying as truth, that it wasn't politically manipulative to do it now, it may have just been simply impossible to implement it at this point, Tony, which goes to the issue of how huge this bill is, and you're going to love it when you find out what's in it, as Nancy Pelosi said. Maybe they just physically can't get it up off the ground.
Well, exactly right, Martha. Look, I mean, Alan's making a point that would have validity if they actually took these into consideration when writing the law. They ran, in fact, when the Supreme Court case was in front of them, the Obama administration made clear that both the mandate for individuals and businesses were essential to implement Obamacare. And as they're running into the political opposition, particularly because in a divided country, we are still very united, according to a recent Gallup poll, which shows overwhelming opposition to Obamacare, over 55%. We're united against this law. Democrats don't want to repeat the same mistake they made in 2010, which just to assume that Obamacare won't be a major variable in the election cycle. It will be, and it would be insane for them to try to think that they could run on it in a proud way. We know it's dysfunctional.
Guys, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, Tony and Alan.
Martha.
We'll see you soon. Have a good 4th.